democracy has grown by more than 10%. Private sector employment has been less than a third of that. Now, that's a failure. We need to do a better job, especially in agriculture. And again, I go back to finishing our ag products at home. That's the single biggest challenge we have, not only to getting young people back on the farm, but to getting real dollars back in the farm, and to really doing all the things that we need to do to restore our small towns throughout South Dakota, like my hometown of Miller. That's what I'm committed to doing.
Yeah.
Dennis Dugard, state question: what will you do to help students in our state with college costs and job placement? What will you do to help graduates in our state and local communities?
Well, certainly job creation and economic development would be my #1 priority as governor. I've said that earlier today. I've said that many times in many venues. One of the problems we have is the same problem that other states are having. The national recession has made jobs difficult to find. It's harder for small business people to offer jobs to college students because they can't offer jobs to anyone. They're constrained by the recession. They're feeling the pain. They're trying to hold the workforce that they've got, and so it's difficult here. It's difficult, more difficult in other states. But what can we do about it? Well, again, we need to get our economy going and improve economic development opportunities. Again, I refer you to my jobs plan. We need to encourage our students to enter fields where jobs do exist. There are many students who enter college, they're not sure what they want to do. They move into social science degree fields where graduates are a dime a dozen, and they get out of school and they can't figure out, why can't I use my psychology degree or my criminal justice degree or my sociology degree and get a good job, because there's a lot of students with those kinds of degrees. We need to encourage our students to focus on areas where there are jobs and need. We need a higher emphasis on career and technical education, both at the high school level and post-high school. So students can spend a year or two either in high school or post-high school and actually get a good job without incurring a tremendous debt load. And for those students that go to the four-year universities, and we have many that should, they focus on those fields where there are jobs, the science, the math, the areas where there's demand, like special education, nursing, areas like that, engineering. So I think it's important for folks to follow their hearts and do what they want to do, but also be realistic about what the job opportunities may be if they choose a path for which there's not much demand.
2-minute rebuttal, Scott Heidecker.
Well, I think there's a different approach too than the one that this administration has used. Too often we're chasing smokestacks in terms of economic development, trying to bring someone across the state line of the interstate, and they come over for as long as our incentive lasts, and then they go on to the next state. But there's a whole new philosophy about economic development that involves gardening as opposed to hunting, that involves nurturing venture capitalists and entrepreneurs here at home. There's a book out now called Hollowing Out the Middle. I can't remember the name of the guy who wrote it, but he's going to be speaking at SDSU, I think, later on this month. They did a study of a small town in Iowa and how to bring it back to life. And it's really an interesting study. It should be the blueprint for economic development in small towns in South Dakota. And it really can be. But the main thing is we cannot give up. We cannot give up on the fabric of rural life in South Dakota. It's so centrally important to all of us. I don't care how big your town is, there's value there, and we need to encourage it.
When you're talking about economic development, you can look at it in 3 ways, and I think all 3 ways are important. We want to invite, we want to innovate, and we want to initiate. We do want to continue to invite others from other locations, other states, to bring their business, bring their offices, their factories to South Dakota. Places like Caterpillar that just established an engineering design office in Rapid City. They're going to create high-paying jobs for our SDSU and School of Mines engineering graduates right here in South Dakota. There is a place for inviting others to come in. And as this recession has caused other states to raise their taxes and impose greater regulations, we are a refuge for some of those other state companies that can come to South Dakota where we still have low tax burden and reasonable regulations. So we want to continue to invite. We also want to innovate. One of the things that has been happening at our public university system is an increased emphasis on research. We have over 10 research centers around the state that have been initiated at our public universities. They are doing research. They're attracting outside dollars into our state. For every dollar that we're investing in these research facilities, they're attracting $2.84 of outside money. But what they also do is they create discoveries. They keep our students here doing research at the graduate level, and they create discoveries that can be commercialized into products and businesses right here in South Dakota. Thirdly, we want to initiate. We need to do more to encourage entrepreneurial activities in South Dakota. So South Dakotans aren't just employees, they're employers. They start businesses and carry them on as employers.
All right, I've been told that we are just about out of time, so before we get to our closing statements, I want to thank the South Dakota Farmers Union for putting on this debate today. I want to thank both of our candidates for a very enlightening discussion, and I want to thank all of you for turning out and being a part of the discussion today, and for submitting so many fine questions. And again, I apologize, we had to place the priority on rural and agricultural issues and go from there. One of the questions I did not get to, and as we get to our closing statements here, perhaps you can be mindful of a question submitted by an 8-year-old in the audience. I didn't forget about you, whoever you are, if you're still here and haven't gone to the ice cream by now. What is the most important thing you will do as governor of South Dakota? How are you going to manage the job? So perhaps our candidates can be mindful of that as we go to our closing statements. And again, having won the coin flip and electing to go first is Dennis Daugaard.
Thank you. Well, I want to end today by saying the same thing I did at the beginning, and that is I want to thank you for coming and spending the time. It is a beautiful day in South Dakota, and you could be doing many things. But the fact that you're here shows you care about South Dakota, and so do I. What do you want in your next governor? I think you want 4 things. You want someone who's honest. Now, I can tell you I'm honest, but you'll have to make that judgment for yourself. But I ask you to talk to people who I've worked with or gone to school with, people who I've served with in the legislature on both sides of the aisle, and I believe they will tell you I am honest. You also want someone with experience. I have a unique mix of experience: agricultural experience, business experience, leadership experience. In the agriculture area, I grew up on a farm. I milked cows. I shoveled manure. I shoveled silage. I know what it's like to work on the farm, and I have that agricultural experience and perspective that I could bring to bear on the job. I also have business experience. After 10 years in banking, I left Children's Home Society to go to work for Children's Home Society, where I'd been volunteering. I left my job at the bank to take less money at Children's Home Society because I believed I could make a difference there, and I did. When I joined them, they had a budget that was in the red. I got them out of debt. I put their budget back in the black. They had spent their reserves down from $1.5 million to $650,000. When I left Children's Home Society, I had rebuilt it and then some. It was a 7 times larger organization, and it was debt-free. Doesn't have any operating debt, not even a mortgage. And those reserves that had fallen to $650,000, I built those reserves and an endowment to over $32 million. So I have business experience. I also have political experience. I spent 6 years in the state senate, and I'm now in my 8th year as lieutenant governor. I understand how the political process works. I've seen it from both the legislator's point of view and the executive branch point of view, and so I believe I could bring that variety of perspectives to bear and hit the ground running. Beyond honesty and experience, you want leadership. You want someone who will have a vision for South Dakota. You also want someone who will listen. The world's a complicated place, and to think you know everything and can make the right decisions in a vacuum is wrong. I believe I'm a good listener, and I would listen and then make decisions. As I said, I have a jobs plan for South Dakota, and that's our #1 problem we need in South Dakota